So, you've probably heard it, right? European leaders are sounding the alarm, warning their citizens to get ready for war. But if you look a little closer at what they're actually doing, you'll see a really puzzling contradiction. Today, we're going to unpack this paradox using analysis from financial journalist Arno Wellens to try and figure out what might really be going on behind the headlines.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. This quote from our source material really captures the central contradiction we're talking about. I mean, think about it. It suggests that the people shouting the loudest about a coming threat are the exact same people who spent years taking apart their own defenses.
And this is the key question for our explainer today. Why do that? According to the source, the answer isn't really about military strategy or national security. It's about something much more fundamental. It's about money.
To really get a grip on that financial angle, we first need to be super clear in what a war economy actually is. It's a classic economic concept, but it has huge implications for your everyday life.
It's a direct trade-off, plain and simple. Economists have a fancy term for it, the indifference curve, but you can just think of it as a choice between guns and butter.
And this is what really brings that trade-off to life. Every single euro spent on a rocket, which, let's be honest, is literally gone the second it's fired, that's a euro that can't be spent building a hospital or funding a school or fixing a road. You see the difference? One is a pure cost, it just vanishes. The other is an investment in society.
This quote really gets to the heart of the source's argument. He's emphatic about this. Military spending is a net economic loss, not some kind of stimulus. It totally challenges that old idea that war is good for the economy. It's a bit like what some economists call the broken window fallacy. The idea that breaking a window and paying to fix it creates economic activity. Well, sure, but you're not actually creating new wealth. You're just spending money to get back to zero.
So, if gearing up for war is so damaging to the economy, are European leaders really getting ready for a fight? Well, the source points to some incredibly puzzling actions from the very politicians calling for readiness, things that just don't seem to add up.
This timeline just lays the contradiction bare, doesn't it? For an entire decade, the policy was to scale things down. And now, all of a sudden, there's this urgent call to massively scale up. And who's leading the charge? The very same person who was in charge during the dismantling. It's confusing, right?
And the source makes it clear this isn't just a one-off thing in one country. He highlights this pattern of underspending, selling off vital equipment, and just dragging their feet on production increases all across Europe. So the question becomes, do these actions really look like leaders who believe a major war is right around the corner?
Okay, so if it's not really about getting ready for an immediate war, what else could be going on? What's the real engine driving this sudden push for massive spending? According to the source, the answer is a pretty powerful financial mechanism.
Well, the source presents this as a kind of four-step pipeline. First, the government promises to spend huge amounts of money it doesn't have. Second, it has to borrow that money. Third, it puts pressure on the central bank to keep interest rates low so it can afford the debt payments. And the end result of this cycle? Inflation. And that's what hits you. It's like a hidden tax that just eats away at the value of your savings and your salary.
And that's the absolute core of the financial argument. Get this, inflation isn't some unfortunate mistake or a side effect. It's the feature, not the bug. It's the primary tool that lets politicians fund these enormous projects without having to face the political backlash of raising your taxes.
Okay, but this isn't just some abstract economic theory, right? This stuff has very real consequences in the real world. It creates clear winners and losers. So let's look at who loses, and according to the source, who stands to gain from this whole cycle.
Well, the winners are pretty obvious right away. The second that European leaders even pledge more spending, the stock prices of defense contractors shoot through the roof. I mean, look at that. Germany's Rheinmetall is up 400%. That's huge.
So what's the bottom line here? The analysis suggests this whole system is basically a giant wealth transfer. Money flows from you, the European taxpayer, who sees your money becoming worth less and less, straight into the pockets of American defense corporations and the big asset managers who are smart enough to invest in them ahead of time.
And for everyone else, this number kind of says it all. The source presents this as the real-world cost. An average house now apparently costs 11 times the average annual salary. Now, to give you some context, back in the 1980s, that number was just 4. That's a massive shift, and the argument is that this hollowing out of the middle class is a direct result of these long-term inflationary policies.
All right, so when you're looking at these huge geopolitical and economic forces, it's easy to feel, well, a little helpless, right? So what can you, as one person, actually do about it? The source's advice isn't to despair, but to focus on what you can personally control.
The key takeaway here really is about empowerment. The advice is to understand the big picture, for sure, but to act on the personal one. That means building your skills, saving what you can, creating a financial buffer, just taking real practical steps to make sure you're on solid ground no matter what's happening out there.
And here's one last piece of advice from our source. It's really a call for persistence. Basically, don't give up. Even when things look discouraging, individual effort still matters. Taking action is always, always better than just standing still.
And that's the thought we want to leave you with. In this big economic trade-off between guns and butter, it's really worth asking, what are you and the society you live in ultimately being asked to give up? Thanks for joining this explainer.